Jennifer from Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make the Boho Beachy Head Scarf. This is a beautiful little lacy wrap that you can wear on your head. You could even wear it around your neck if you like as a pretty statement piece. I have crocheted up some easy lace in a lightweight, fine, shimmery yarn, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. And you could wear this sort of stretched like this, or you could really open up that lace and stretch it across your head for a beautiful statement on your head for some pretty summer headwear. And then I finished off the bottom with some long fringe that has some beads kind of placed throughout the whole thing. These are glass beads and crystal beads and some shell beads. So it's a really pretty project for the summer and spring as the temperatures are warming up. Now the finished scarf, the lace portion here, measures about 21 inches long, and I really just held it up to my own head to get the measurement and added a little bit extra. And then each end of our head scarf has about 10 inches on either side. So the finished from end to end, from end of the fringes to the fringes, goes about 41 inches because we have the 21 inches here, 10 inches, and 10 inches. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need a tapestry needle, a pair of scissors. We're going to be using a 3.75 millimeter F crochet hook. You'll also need some beads if you like. It's not super important, but I thought that they would add a little bit of sparkle because our yarn has a little bit of sparkle as well. I have some glass beads here. I have some seed beads. You can really use, there's a couple crystal beads in there. You can really use anything you like. I just kind of chose some that matched my yarn color. And then if your beads are really tiny like mine, you might want to grab a little piece of wire, and I'm going to show you how to do that if your tapestry needle is too big. Now let's talk about the yarn. This is Croquette. This is a new yarn from Red Heart that we're going to be using. And this is very fine yarn. It has a little bit of silver thread through it, at least the colorway that I have. It's a little tiny, let me slip this off so I can show you. It's a little tiny yarn cake. It almost is the size of like a little donut. And each yarn cake is 239 yards, 219 meters, 1.5 ounces, 45 grams. And so the color that I'll be using is called Tide Pool, but it does come in lots of different colors, and I'll put the link down below so you can check that out. This is a super fine 1 on the yarn weight scale, and it recommends a 2.25 millimeter B crochet hook, but we're going to be going up a little bit because our stitch is a little bit lacy and I wanted it to have a little bit more drape. So we're going to go up a hook size, well, a couple hook sizes rather. And just as a side note, this is 92% cotton, 5% polyester, 3% other fibers. So this is a new yarn. It's fun to use. There is a pattern using this yarn on the label as well, so that's always a fun bonus. And again, I'm using the Tide Pool colorway, so the Croquette. Now, if you want to use something else, any one super fine on the yarn weight scale would be perfectly fine for this project. I'm going to slide this scarf over a little bit so we can work with our yarn. Now this is a center pull ball of yarn. I've already made one here, but as you can see, the Croquette yarn that we talked about just a minute ago, you could easily, very easily get another full headscarf out of this. So I'm just going to pull it from the center, and this is what we had left from this one just to show you. Okay, and we're going to grab our hook. And then what we're going to do is do our starting chain first. So let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see my hands a little bit better. We're going to do the lace portion and then later move on to the fringe and the beadwork. So to begin, wrap the yarn around your fingers to make a loop. Bring the yarn behind the loop, reach in with your hook, bring up a loop, and tighten it. We have a starting chain of 18. So what we're going to do is wrap yarn around hook and bring it through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. So here is our starting chain, and it gives you a nice size for your head. Okay, so for row 1, this is a super easy pattern. You may even recognize the stitch from some of my other projects. I tend to have lots of favorite stitches that I like to apply to other projects. So for row 1, in the 4th chain from the hook, we're going to work a double crochet. Okay, so this loop here does not count, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in the 4th chain from the hook, we're going to work a double crochet. To make a double crochet, wrap yarn around hook, insert it into that 4th chain from the hook that we talked about before. Wrap yarn around hook, bring up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the first 2 loops. Wrap yarn around hook, bring it through the last 2 loops. Then we're going to work a double crochet into the next chain, just like that. Then we're going to work in the next chain, work a double crochet, chain 3 double crochet, okay? So in that next chain, work a double crochet, chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then in the same chain, work another double crochet. I would recommend that if you're not used to using fine yarn, this is very fine yarn. It's a 1 on the yarn weight scale. If you're not used to using fine yarn, I would just recommend to go nice and slow, okay? Next, we're going to skip the next chain and then work a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains. So work a double crochet in that chain, work a double crochet in the next chain, and then we're going to do, in the next chain, work our double crochet, chain 3 double crochet. So double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and a double crochet, just like that. Okay, so we're just setting up our stitches here, and then the next row will be a little bit easier because we're going to be working into the spaces. There won't be as much counting after that. Okay, so we're going to skip the next chain, work a double crochet in each of the 2 chains after that. So double crochet, next chain, double crochet, whoops, next chain, work your double crochet, chain 3 double crochet. So double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and a double crochet once again. Okay, we're going to skip the next chain and then work a double crochet in the chain after that. Work a double crochet in the chain after that. And then to finish the row, you should have 1 chain left on your row. Just work a double crochet to finish the row in the last chain, okay? So this is what we have so far. It should look like that, and we have our stitches set up. Doesn't look like a whole lot right now, but it'll make more sense in our next row. So let's move on to row 2. Now row 2 is the row that you're going to do for the entire rest of your headscarf, okay? So once you set up your stitches, there won't be any more counting. This next row is much easier, and it'll be the row you repeat for the entire project. So for row 2, what we're going to do is chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we're going to turn our work. Okay, so from here on out, we're basically going to be working in these chain 3 spaces. Remember those chain 3s we did in the previous row? They're going to give you these big open spaces. See them here? There's one there, and then there's one down here. So we're going to be working in those chain 3 spaces. So locate that first one. It should be fairly obvious. It's a very large opening. So what we're going to do in that chain 3 space from the previous row is work 3 double crochet, chain 3, 1 double crochet, okay? So 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 more double crochet in that space as well. So it should look like that. And because we're doing our a group of double crochets and then a chain, a couple chains, and then another double. It's going to make things kind of offset, like a topsy-turvy looking granny stitch. I think from the comments that you all leave, which I love, by the way, that I think that this stitch has a couple different names. If you know a different name for this, please share below. Okay, hop on over to the next chain 3 space, which should be fairly obvious, and work your same thing. 3 double crochet, 1, 2, and 3, just like that, and then chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and then 1 more double crochet in that space. Just like that. Okay, so we're starting to get a little bit of that topsy-turvy look. Okay, and I have to say, having the center pull ball of yarn sitting on a table like this is so easy and wonderful to use. Okay, so we're going to go to the next chain 3 space, which is the last one of our row, and we're going to do the same thing. Work 3 double crochet, 1, 2, 3, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 more double crochet into that space. Okay, then to finish up our row, that was a pretty fast row, right? Okay, so to finish up our row, look for that turning chain. Remember in the previous row we did a turning chain? You're going to look for that turning chain, and it might be a little bit smushed, but you're going to look for that, the topmost chain of your turning chain, and you're going to work 3 double crochets into the top of that. Okay, so locate that topmost chain of your turning chain and go 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Okay, so row 2 is complete, and this particular stitch will kind of look a little goofy, a little bit lumpy in the beginning, but as you work through, now let me find this was our starting edge. We got our fringe is all wrapped up in itself here. Let me just get this straightened out for you. So this was our starting edge when we began. So as you work up more rows, the edges will start to form a straight line, and things will look kind of play out a little bit. This particular stitch in the beginning, it'll look a little bit, I'm all tangled up here. For lack of a better word, it'll look a little bit goofy in the beginning, and then it'll sort of kind of present itself a little bit more as you move on. So to continue with your headscarf, keep working row 2 over and over and over and over. If you need to back up the video, that's perfectly fine. YouTube has like a slow-mo feature. You can watch it really nice and slow as well if you need to, and you can back it up as many times as you need to. But for now, repeat row 2 over and over and over until your scarf is about 21 inches. That's how it was when I wrapped it around my head, and I gave it just a little bit extra length just for a little, to have a little extra to work with when you wrap it. But I went for about 21 inches. I would encourage you to put the scarf on your own head or whoever's head will be wearing it, just to see if you're kind of on the right track as you work. So work row 2 over and over and over, and then we're going to rejoin, and we're going to finish up the lace portion of our scarf. And we're also going to learn how to add the fringe and to add the beads too, if you like. So we're going to continue, and we'll rejoin in just a moment. All right, I'm just adding the last double crochet of my row here. And again, you'll just want to make this long enough to go around your head like a headband comfortably, and you can have a little extra, that's okay too. So when you're finished, see how I have a little bit of a color change, which is fun. When you're finished, you can grab your scissors and cut the yarn and fasten off. And I just wanted to point out, now we haven't added the long, beautiful fringe yet, but I have a ton of yarn left. You could easily make several of these. So we're going to put this aside, and actually let's grab this bottom end here. We're going to start adding some fringe. So you don't even need to worry about this tail here. It's going to just become part of our fringe. We're going to have some long, beautiful fringe, and then I'll show you how to add some of these beads later on. So we'll have the beads aside for now. So what you'll want to do is figure out how long you want your fringe to be. Do you want it to be really long and kind of drapey? Or do you want it to be shorter? It's up to you. But I want mine to be long and kind of flowy. So what we're going to do is, once you determine the length of your fringe, you're going to, now I like to cut a piece of yarn and use it as my template in a way. Okay, so you can kind of lay that out. And then what you want to do with your yarn is we're going to extend it the length of our little template here. You know what, let me put this at an angle so you can sort of see what I'm doing here. Let's see. There we go. So it's like from here to here. So we're going to go the length of our template and then fold it in half and do it again. Fold it in half, do it again. And fold it in half and do it again. Okay? So cut your yarn. And then what we're going to do is grab our little scarf here. And then you're going to look for, so one of your ends will have a snipped off part and one of your ends will have 2 loops. Grab those 2 loops, slip your finger in there like that. And then what you're going to do is grab your crochet hook and go in any of these stitches along the bottom here. Just go right in the bottom there. Hook your yarn, pull it through, and then what you're going to do is send those ends through, just like that, and give it a nice little tug. Okay? So our first fringe is complete. Now you're going to have some loops at the bottom. Just focus right now on getting the fringe on, and then we'll get it nice and neat and add those beads. So go ahead and add your fringe using your little template, if you wanted to use a template like I did. And we're just going to go stretch it across once, fold, stretch it across again. That's 1 fold, 2 folds, and 3 folds. Okay? Then we're going to cut the yarn. This is just to refresh you. Look for the end that has the loops, not the snipped ends. And then just hook it around your finger like that. Get it nice and straight. Sometimes this fringe can get out of hand, so try to keep it nice and neat. And then you can just leave this end here. We're going to go into those stitches on this end. I like to work from end to end and then work my way inward. Now what you can do to incorporate that tail is when you send the tails through, also send that end in as well. Go through the loop with everything. And then just give it a nice little tug. Tighten it up. And then you have your next fringe. So like I was mentioning before, I like to go from the ends and then work my way in. So the next one I'm going to do is the middle and then the center of those 2 and then the center of those 2. Okay, so I'm going to add some more fringe and then we'll rejoin in just a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and added all the fringe to either end. Now you notice it's not heavy, thick, fluffy fringe. It's kind of long and loose because what we're going to be doing is tying this around our heads, so you can kind of visualize it here. And when it comes together like this, it does become a little bit thicker. So if you go too heavy on the fringe, it could be a little bit bulky back here. So we have cut our fringe very, very long to begin. Okay, so what I'm going to do is give it a little haircut. I only want this to be about 12 to 18 inches long. So I grabbed a larger pair of scissors. I was using these little tiny scissors earlier. But here, let me zoom out so you can see a little bit better. There we go. So I was using these little tiny scissors, and then I'm going to go to these bigger scissors. So what we want to do is just go ahead and trim the bottom. Now what you can do is really just sort of comb things down with your fingers and make sure, see how my ends are lined up? Make sure your ends are lined up. Now this is one of those very forgiving projects that doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. So I do love projects like that, but you don't want to be sloppy either. So then what we're going to do is come down here to the bottom and grab your scissors and just snip across. Okay, try to be nice and neat. Now I grabbed the larger scissors because they're a little bit sharper and I can get a little bit more strands per snip. Okay, so we're just going to cut the bottoms of those. Now you can give it a little shake, relax that fringe a little bit, and our headband essentially is complete. But I want to add some beautiful little beads to mine because I think it would just add so much. And beads and fringe really help weigh things down. You don't want to add too many, but it will add a little sparkle. And I am not going to just put them on the ends here. I'm going to, now if you get a little long piece like that, you can touch it up a little bit. But I'm going to kind of stagger them throughout the fringe. So if your beads, now this is very fine yarn. So some of you, depending on what kind of beads you're using, may be able to simply string them on. So I grabbed a bead, I'm going to try. But if not, I'm going to show you a little trick as well. So this yarn might be thin enough to where you can take your bead and thread it right on. Kind of like what I did right here, okay? And then what you can do to keep that little bead in place is take your fingers and just make a nice knot at the bottom. And I'm going to go twice on that knot just to get it nice and secure. Another way you can do a knot to make sure, because if the hole is large enough, it could still slide off. You know what? Let me zoom in a little bit. You could also take the yarn and tie it. See how the bead is on that loop? Tie it on to the yarn. See how it's now part of the knot? And that way the bead will definitely, absolutely not go anywhere. And you can kind of see that there, okay? So you can repeat this for all of your beads, but let's grab one that's really, really tiny. So I have here this beautiful glass bead. Let me just zoom in a little bit more. But I have this beautiful glass bead, and I really want to incorporate it, but the hole is super, it's like microscopic. So what we want to do in that case is grab another strand of your fringe, and what you can do is take your wire, and it's a little bit hard to see because it's so thin, but just bend it over the strand of yarn. I have a whole separate video on how to do this with this wire like this. If you'd like to check that out, it's geared towards buttons, but you can absolutely do this with beads as well, as we're doing right now. So take your, and see I bent it around the thread, so it's kind of making like a link here. And then you can take, this is very thin, so you could easily pass this through your bead. So take the ends of your wire and just slip them on to the bead like so, and then just pop it right on. Just like that, okay? Super easy. And then you can tie your bead right onto it. Now I'm going to also do that where I incorporate the bead right into the knot. Just like that, okay? And we can just leave that strand hang down. Now, you'll want to repeat, now if it splits a little bit, you can always trim it, but you'll want to repeat this process until you get as many beads as you like on there. I'm going to kind of like scatter them. Let me zoom back out for you. I'm going to kind of scatter my beads throughout the fringe so it's kind of haphazard and gives that nice like casual beachy kind of feel, okay? So I'm going to add some more beads on here and then we'll rejoin and see how it looks. The beads have all been added to our fringe, and I did sort of like a smattering throughout the fringe instead of putting them all down at the bottom. I wanted them to kind of look textured and see some shimmer throughout, so they look really beautiful. So our headband scarf is complete, and this is a great way to beautifully, you know, keep the hair out of your face, keep your head nice and cool, and a beautiful little accessory for the summer. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.